Enter the world of biblical humanities, where an enriching symphony for the mind, heart, and soul plays at the crossroads of the Bible and the humanities. Hello, I'm Jessie Lee from Hubal Center, South Korea. It's a pleasure to reconnect with all of you. Today, we embark on an exploration of the enigmatic origins of self-existence. In Great Expectations, the narrative unravels the intricate challenges confronting both the inheritor and the giver. Let's begin with Pip, the recipient of the inheritance, who, as a 7-year-old child, grew up without knowing the faces of his parents. Living with his married older sister, the sole survivor among 6 siblings, Pip faced relentless ridicule and abuse. Enduring frequent beatings, he also assumed the role of a connubial missile between his brother-in-law Joe and his sister. Beyond Joe, the relatives and neighbors consistently overlooked him, treating him as inconsequential as sixpence change. House guests engaged in conversations where he became the target of pointed spear tips. Deprived of a proper education, Pip naturally struggled with reading and often misunderstood conversations. For instance, he interpreted the vow, "I was to walk in the same all the days of my life," as a directive to move in a specific direction. Similarly, Joe's comment about, "Your sister is given to government," was misconstrued, leading Pip to believe that his sister had been given to the government. Even at Miss Havisham's house, where he was called, he not only faced scorn and ridicule from Estella but also endured physical abuse in the form of a slap. And what about Magwitch, the man who bequeathed Pip his inheritance? He grew up in ignorance of his birthplace. Cast onto a cart and transported from one city to another. His life was marked by beatings, shackles, and dog bites, with not a single soul caring for him. Countless times, people shunned him, afraid to even look in his direction, either driving him away or forcibly confining him. Captures and incarcerations became so frequent that it evolved into a way of life for him. Clad in rags since a tender age, he was branded a habitual criminal, condemned by society to spend the remainder of his days in prison. Constantly subjected to vilification, he was accused of being a devil. His journey involved wandering, begging, stealing, and sporadic labor. Mostly jobs that didn't offer compensation but inflicted suffering and hastened his demise. Later, he encountered a swindler named Compayson, a heartless and deathly cold man, becoming his despicable slavey, a pitiable tool in his hands. He toiled to the point of exhaustion, constantly indebted to Compayson, ensnared in his clutches. The years spent in servitude were more grueling than any he had experienced before. After their joint arrest for circulating stolen banknotes, Magwitch attempted to escape blame by shifting all responsibility onto Compayson. In the courtroom, he unfortunately witnessed Compayson appearing as an educated, sophisticated gentleman, while he himself was portrayed as an uneducated, lowly man. Subsequently sentenced to the same prison ship as Compayson, he seized an opportunity to overpower Compayson, leading to their escape from the ship's punishment cell and a rendezvous on the riverbank where he encountered young Pip in the churchyard. Another encounter with Compayson ensued, resulting in a fight, capture, a commuted life sentence, and deportation to New South Wales. Escaping once again, he returned to London, lived with Pip, faced another capture, and ultimately received a commutation to the death penalty. Were Pip and Magwitch the sole children of their era to undergo such extraordinary experiences? In 19th century England, children often faced societal disdain. A far cry from the contemporary world where children benefit from free education, complimentary school meals, and a monthly allowance catering to their diverse needs while upholding their human rights. This disparity stemmed from the challenging circumstances, as Pip confessed, faced by a common laboring boy at the time, compelled to exist in a precarious and low-lived manner. Broadly speaking, the period following the Industrial Revolution, spanning from 1760 to 1820, witnessed the gradual dominance of laissez-faire economic policies in Britain, contributing to the misery of the working class. Capitalists exploited labor by preferentially hiring inexpensive women and children over skilled adult workers, subjecting them to a grueling routine of repeating assigned tasks for 14 to 16 hours daily amid noisy, odorous, and unsanitary conditions. although workers organized themselves into social movements to advocate for improved conditions, leading to the enactment of factory and trade union laws and amendments to electoral laws. Labor issues remained a significant social concern during that era. Jaggers, the lawyer serving as Pip's guardian, depicts the plight of children amid the societal conditions of the time. He views it as a sinful environment, and his observation of the children living in it is summarized as all he saw of children was their being produced in great numbers for certain destruction. This perspective stems from his exposure to the sight of children solemnly tried at a criminal bar, where they were held up to be seen. Jaggers became consistently aware of children enduring punishments like whipping, imprisonment, exile, and being deemed qualified in every way for the hangman. This exposure led him to develop a belief that nearly every child encountered in the course of his work would spawn so much to develop into the fish that were to come to his net, subject to charges, defense, and some form of transformation into an evil being. Jaggers' description serves as a reflection of the harsh social conditions in which children had to survive during that time. It prompts the question of how we are to comprehend the existence of so many children, for whom certain doom awaited, and who were considered as deserving to be hanged. None of us were born from our own ribs or in isolation. Each of us entered this world, specific to a country, city, or region, at a particular time and to particular parents. In this context, John Donne's poem, "No Man is an Island, Whole of Itself," takes on a renewed significance. For instance, my parents' history of lung problems can impact me, just as my uneven teeth may shape my children's teeth. On the other hand, many of us were born in South Korea in the second half of the 20th century or later, experiencing the peace and prosperity built by our parents' generation, without enduring the impact of the Japanese occupation, the Korean War, or military dictatorship. This stands in stark contrast to the people of Syria, Yemen, and Myanmar, currently embroiled in civil war or facing the consequences of a military coup. Of course, within our own community, there are individuals grappling with challenges, be it physical illness, psychological pain, or economic pressures. Importantly, these struggles may not entirely be their responsibility, as they could result from unique circumstances at home or adverse societal conditions. The key is to realize and acknowledge that there are aspects shaping our lives that are foreign and unpleasant to our ego, things not of our making and beyond our control. This perspective aligns with the philosophy of the Stoics and finds resonance in Reinhold Niebuhr's prayer, known as the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Essentially, it encourages us to recognize the things beyond our control and accept them with a calm heart. When we wholeheartedly embrace our country, parents, siblings, family circumstances, social situation, and our individual beings and capacities without dismissal or rejection, we gain the clarity. This clarity allows us to identify the aspects we can change and the areas in life where we can contribute. Only by acknowledging the mystery of our origins, accepting that reality, and making it our identity can we build a meaningful legacy for the next generation. Now, let's transition to the next aspect of contemplation regarding great expectations. Professor Myung-Won Kim, in dissecting the significance of the work's English title, Great Expectations, posits that it extends beyond a mere reference to inheritance. Instead, he suggests it encompasses the broader concept of great expectations of inheritance, and reflects the prevailing materialistic aspirations within society at that time. He advocates for a more fitting Korean title, proposing huge legacy. An examination of the 8 instances where this expression appears in the work lends support to this proposition. Take, for example, the pivotal scene where the expression is initially introduced. It unfolds as Jaggers, the lawyer, imparts information about Pip and Joe's inheritance. Now, I return to this young fellow, and the communication I have got to make is that he has great expectations. Translating this expression as great inheritance, in this context would be awkward. And I have not encountered translations like huge legacy or tremendous inheritance in my country since its introduction. In accordance with the original title, the inheritance bequeathed to Pip is more accurately described as a vast unearned income, rather than a great inheritance. Initially, this substantial windfall becomes a poison and a snare for him. For a man who had previously viewed the forge as the glowing road to manhood and independence, and was becoming disillusioned with his profession and life, this significant inheritance serves as a means of escape from reality. As Pip endeavors to assimilate the manners of a gentleman, his transition from a modestly comfortable lifestyle to an extravagantly comfortable one leads him to recklessly spend money. This behavior results in considerable debt, fulfilling the predictions Jaggers made upon their arrival in London. Pip's extravagant spending influences even the typically steady Herbert, who was staying with him, causing him to exceed his financial means. Consequently, Pip's once simple life is corrupted, and he loses peace of mind, succumbing to overwhelming feelings of anxiety and regret. Why did this happen? Fundamentally, Pip misunderstood the meaning of the money due to misconceptions about the origin and purpose of the substantial inheritance. Primarily, he erred in understanding the origin of the inheritance, having long believed it came from Miss Havisham until the revelation by Magwitch. He had misconstrued the inheritance as intended, to make my fortune on a grand scale, by Miss Havisham, who had chosen Estella as her mate. However, the reality was starkly different. The money was earned by Magwitch, a convicted felon, who put everything on the line, even his own blood, to amass this wealth. His sole purpose was to improve Pip's life without demanding any labor in return. Had Pip known the true source of this money and its significance, that it wasn't a stroke of luck from a wealthy woman but the hard-earned fruits of a convict's labor, he would never have touched the inheritance, let alone spent it so extravagantly. The realization of the money's origin leaves Pip crucially traumatized. His words, "I began to fully realize how wrecked I was, and how the ship in which I had sailed was gone to pieces," carry weight, revealing the shattering of his long-held dreams. As a consequence of this misunderstanding, Pip remained unaware of the intended use of the inheritance. The original purpose of the vast fortune was to train Pip to become a gentleman, as pointed out by Jaggers, the lawyer who delivered the news of the inheritance. Jaggers highlighted the property owner's desire for Pip to leave his current home and pursue a gentleman's education. Magwitch, when expressing his own intentions later, underscores the same purpose. He secretly considers the act of elevating Pip, who saved him, to a gentleman as his secret reward, even though he is nothing more than a mere warmint, or a pest of society. Take note, warmint is a variant of varmint or vermin, referring to a harmful wild animal or a person perceived as a nuisance causing trouble to society. However, even as Magwitch provides Pip with a substantial amount of money, he remains ignorant of the true nature of a gentleman. While he takes pleasure in seeing Pip spend money, like a gentleman, he fails to grasp the full implications of what that gentlemanliness entails. A gentleman does not attain that status by indulging in luxuries, nor does he achieve it by mastering the contents of a booklet like the Red Book. That is, Webster's Royal Red Book, containing the names and addresses of the nobility and upper classes, which Herbert's mother clung to. Among those who perhaps best exemplified the path to becoming a gentleman was Herbert's father, Matthew Pocket, who also served as Pip's tutor during his gentlemanly lessons in London. Herbert, when reflecting on his father, emphasizes key qualities of a gentleman. Herbert recalls his father's advice, harking back to an incident from 25 years prior when a man courted Miss Havisham. His father described the suitor as a showy man, and the kind of man for the purpose, cautioning against mistaking such a man for a true gentleman. Herbert asserts that any misunderstanding in this regard stems from ignorance and prejudice. He firmly believes that no man who was not a true gentleman at heart ever was, since the world began, a true gentleman in manner. To underscore this point, he offers an analogy. No varnish can hide the grain of the wood, and the more varnish you put on, the more the grain will express itself. The qualities of a genuine gentleman, as articulated by Matthew Pocket, center around outward manners grounded in inner authenticity. A timeless principle since the inception of the world. Analogous to the relationship between varnish and wood grain, no amount of external embellishments or packaging can conceal these intrinsic qualities. This realization eluded Pip, who initially aspired to be a gentleman solely to gain Estella's favor. His desire was rooted in Estella's disdainful treatment of him as nothing more than a wild, lowly child. However, Pip's misguided perspective is challenged by his best friend, Biddy, who questions whether his desire to be a gentleman is driven by a desire to spite her or win over. When Pip admits he doesn't know, Biddy offers stern advice. If it's for spite, then ignoring Estella's words completely would preserve Pip's pride. If it's to win her over, Pip should recognize that Estella isn't worth his time. Although this advice resonates with Pip at the time, he dismisses it, asserting that he is deeply in love with Estella. In essence, Biddy's counsel, as Pip acknowledges, embodies a remarkable inconsistency into which the best and wisest of men fall every day, in this world. It holds true that the motivation behind aspiring to be a gentleman, soldier, or celebrity in the eyes of the world often stems from a desire for revenge or to win someone's favor, an allure that even the best and wisest individuals succumb to daily. Yet, it poses a contradiction. On one hand, you undermine your own self-esteem by seeking revenge, and on the other, the pursuit of someone's favor seems unwarranted. Not least because you strive to win the favor of someone undeserving. Isn't it a form of cheating myself to repeatedly succumb to this contradiction? Even with the awareness of its paradox? Pip offers another confession to ponder: all other swindlers upon earth are nothing to the self-swindlers, and with such pretenses did I cheat myself. Surely a curious thing. As the by-elections unfold in my country, deceitful practices abound, but the gravest deception lies in self-deception. It serves as a poignant reminder for me to reflect on my own life. Thank you for delving into the mysterious source of self-existence. And a ship of life shattered by a devastating legacy revealed in great expectations together. Until next time, stay curious.